mai ki tēnei tō tata nei huihuinga mo te ata nei. E roto i tērā whakaaro e tika ana ngā mihi aroha kia rātou kua wehatu ki te pō. Kua pā te ringa kaha o aitua ki a tātou i te wā e pāhuare ake. Mai ki te taki wā o tō rangatira, te whānau Williams, te whānau Grip. Ki te taki wā o Atiawa ki Whakarongotai, te whānau Gerritson, te whānau Parata. Rere atu ki Otaki, whānau Royal, whānau Rikihana. Whakawhiti atu ki te taki wā o Ngāti Huia ki Poro Tāwha. Haere tonu ngā mihi aroha ki a rātou kua tua ki te arai, koutou te kirimate, te whānau e pane ana i tēnei wā pauri. Haere tonu ngā mihi aroha ki a rātou me ki kia piki te ora, kia piki te kaha, kia piki te māramatanga i ngā wā katoa. Koutou hoki e māwiwi ana, e taumaha ana, hotu ngā mihi aroha, ngā mihi whakawhetai ki a rātou hoki, roto i te taki wā nei. Hure anō ki a tātou. Ngā rangatira o te kaunihera o Kapiti, kei ngā tātai o te iwi tokotoru o Ngāti tō rangatira Tati Awa raukua te au ki te tonga o te rā ngā hapu o taki. Nei rā te mihi kia koutou. Tēnā koutou ngā kai whiriwhiri o te kaunihera o Kapiti. Nā koutou e hāpai i nei kaupapa o tātou. Oku whanaunga, tai tinana mai ki tēnei ata, Chris Rawa ko Hariata, nau mai, hara mai, piki mai, ki tēnei tō tātou nei, hui whakamutunga o te tau. Huri no, tēnā koutou, tēnā huhu mai tātou katoa. E te atua tō mātou kaihanga, ka tiaho te māramatanga me te ora i au kupu kōrero. Ti mātou mahi kia mau te tika me te aroha. Me tia kia utonu kia mātou tau aroha i roto i tēnei huhuinga. Whakaki a mātou whakaaro mātou mahi katoa te wairua tapu. Āmene. Kei te wareware au te hinganga mai o te rangatira o Ngāti Porou. Wiremu kaua. I nanahi rā e haere ana au ki te marae o harauta ki te whakamanawa tērā tangata. He hoa tata ki tāku nei pāpā matau me taku hoa. Tōna hoa wahine, tōku māma lauma. Haere tonu ngā mihi ki hikurangi maunga. Ki a rātou mā e hiko e haere ki te takiwa o Ngāti Hau i te rangi nei. Mō tāna nehutanga. Nei reira, haere tonu ngā mihi aroha ki a ia. Hoki, huri no tēnā koutou. Just want to acknowledge you all this morning, to our whanaunga Chris and Hariata. Appreciate you coming to our hui this morning, to the mayor, to our elected members, to our staff, to our mana whenua representatives. Just acknowledging we've been under a dark cloud for a number of weeks now. By my count, by yesterday, 8 people of significance that we have connections with across the whole of the Confederation of Ngāti Tō Tati Awa, Ngāti Raukawa have passed away. I just wanted to respectfully acknowledge all those families that have been overcome with sadness and are fatigued from the experiences we've had collectively to support one another. So just a moment to acknowledge those of our loved ones that are attached to us. And yesterday I had the privilege to pay my respects to Wiremu Kaua, Bill Kaua down at Haurauta in Porirua. So just acknowledging those of our kaumātua as well and our families that are unwell. A number of people now have got COVID and just generally unwell. So just respectfully acknowledging them and wanting to extend our aroha to them. To our mayor and our elected members, to our mana whenua representatives, to our democratic staff who are here to tautoko our meeting today, I also respectfully acknowledge you and your attendance. So with that, I declare the meeting open. Are there any apologies that I need to note or record, please?
Tēnā koe i te tihimana, ko Hara Adams, tētahi.
Ka pai.
Tēnā koe.
Thank you.
Kirsten Hapata.
Oh, Rako Te Ora, let's record his apologies. I spoke to him yesterday. I wasn't aware that he would not be attending, so Rako Te Ora. Could I have someone move those apologies, please? Denise, seconder. Huri Wise giving me a stare, so I'll say Ngāti Toa's going to tautoko there. All in favour say aye. Kia ora koutou. He wā kōrero ki te Maria. Tēnā koe, Chris. Whakatata mai. Whanaunga. Ata Māori.
Kia ora tātou, tēnā koe te tia. Te mea. Ngā manu taiko te komiti nei, tēnā kou te mihi atu ki a koutou. Koutou mātaki mai. Mihi atu ki a rā te kōwihi atu hoki. He wā pauri hoki. Yeah. So just acknowledging everybody here. Those who have gone, yeah, it's a sad time, surely. I'm thinking of Tūroa right now. And he brought, a lot of mātauranga and our journey of learning about ourselves and about the stuff that we need to do in this world. So it's the kaupapa as well. And just to acknowledge all of you guys, mihi atu kia koutou, tēnei wā o Karinite, Christmas greetings. Well-deserved rest at the end of the year, so mihi atu kia koutou. Now I've got 3 take that I'll just table for us to share. Last time I brought my dad's toko toko. This time I thought, well, Gandalf and Harry Potter might do the trick, so we'll see how we go. You know, we had to change the government, and I just want to impress upon this council, especially through our community Māori, about the changes that are coming and the need for us to dig in. You know, swings and roundabouts, I think this change of government's going to get a lot of outrage and hopefully not dividing people, but encouraging proactive, constructive development. So things like health, so I'm a health person, I'm a senior lecturer at Massey Māori Health. We're about to lose Te Aka Whai Ora, and yet the Pai Ora, the direction that we're all travelling in, doesn't need to stop here. So we carry it on the ground, we carry it on in other agencies. Council itself has a key part in Pai Ora. The Whānau Ora, the Māori Ora, the Wai Ora, those 3 components together, a lot of that is council related ability to influence. So I guess my tono here would be one, determined to do something about it. Don't just be a victim of the wave, but actually be a proactive council that's actually leading with your people to progress. And we might be picking up pieces, or we might be innovating new things that help fill the gaps. Yeah. The one that you'll tune into on the radio this morning would be Te Tiriti, perhaps. We've got Waitangi Day coming up. There's only Te Tiriti Te Reo Māori. There's only the Māori treaty that we signed. And so someone went in and took down the English one that's on display. So that debate's coming up. And, being able to tune into that constructively. I hope this coming Waitangi Day, there's going to be a fair amount of activity aside from the programmed activities. I'd like us to find ways, us as a hapu want to do something too. Probably down the beach at Aotearoa Waiwai. I'll probably just leave that one there. I kind of flagged my rationale for what commitments you make in this space when I think of health and well-being as a discipline. You know, you'll train your engineers and your planners, and you'll spend tens and twenties of thousands of dollars every year on each person, perhaps, to do their job properly. Well, I'm challenging council to do that for Māori. Everyone who has a role to play that affects our outcomes, send them on the training. Consider that as their personal development. Track them so that we get good outcomes. And if you don't, it feels like an inequality, which you could probably iron out with a bit of attention. I have to refer to my notes now. The second point will be a recap. I've appeared here a number of times now. It's a little bit of 2 or 3 years' work, I think, but a few things I'm advocating for. Yes, I did call for a review of Whakaminenga right at the start, and that's not a criticism of anything. I understand the realities and the challenges and the resource capacity, but you know, to have a say into, well, what does that look like, and does it meet the outcomes? And you know, I want to be able to have input as a hapu to say what outcomes we're interested in. In Whakaminenga, because I still grappling to understand the arrangements that council has with the Whakaminenga as its advisory post office, what have you. But hands up anyone in this room that speaks on behalf of my hapu's issues, particular. So you know, we need to find spaces for voices. And in particular, I'll just drop here. I've been seeking a meeting with the mayor. I've tried through a couple of years. Māori committees, iwi, your advisor, gone now, mayors, second letter to the mayor, the Paraparu Māori committee, which I chair. You know, someone in council decided to change this overlay of our land on the island, big green crosses that says it's now ecologically significant and you can't use it. Things like that we want to address. We want to have a forum, and it feels like an inequality to actually just try and get a meeting when any other organisation can walk in and have a meeting. Because it's brown, it probably just drops into nowhere. So it's just not a criticism, just need to keep working at it. So the second thing that I've requested consistently over the last couple of years is information so that we can stay connected. I've had a yes, I think, at the first or second presentation that can we at least get an email, because it's actually quite tricky tracking your minutes at times. They're not always there on time, and they're several months after the fact when we could actually do with it in a timely manner. You know, when the minutes are in draft even, can we have a circulation list of all those who are interested, especially within our hapu active people who actually want to engage. So I'll plug that again, because I got a yes, but it didn't happen, and I followed it up and it still didn't happen. So that'll be the second one. Not a criticism, it's just gentle encouragement. Probably the third one, I know my time is probably taken up. Just Paraparu Māori committee. You know, we've written the second time now to our mayor, Tēnā koe. We first wrote to Guru, and we didn't really get anything. I presented to council here in, I think, August, and invited to resubmit the letter, so I have. And again, part of that is, you know, we want to find, I don't expect our iwi to solve all the problems, I don't expect council to solve all the problems, but anyone who's on deck to give hands on deck in whatever areas of passion they've got, just trying to free up ways that we can have those conversations. So yeah, probably if there's a forum that we can direct, I'd like to sort of seek an action. You know, it might be a sit-down meeting, but it might be a forum to help. I'm plugging particularly hapu voices. How do we encourage hapu voices or voices for other Māori in the district that aren't necessarily being met, because we've got some heaps of unmet need. Probably just leave it there, just with a note of encouragement, and doors open to strike up a convo. But I'm feeling like my magic wand is needed to actually press a green button somewhere. Can you press it, please? I presented to the Paraparu Māori committee last week, and I sort of scared the same question, but this forum's a special one. And you know, he kaupapa Māori, he rangi ātia he, hurui mai he rangi ātia tēnei. We've got a responsibility to nourish that mauri using all the tools that we can. So kia kaha tātou. That's my little kouwhau mō tēnei rā. And I took the opportunity, because I'm down here, Āti Nana in person, to come and see you and wish you Merry Christmas. Ngā mihi. Kia ora. He pātai.
Tēnā no hoki koe, Chris. Are there any questions or any responses to those items that Chris has brought to our attention?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts about the direction with the new government, and a call to action, which was certainly heard by everybody around this table. As regards the second point, I did have an email from you in October. It came through the council inbox. I just looked for it, and so it kind of went through a bit of a roundabout route. So my apologies if I haven't got back to you on that, but really happy for you to come in to the office and have a discussion with potentially me and Martin and maybe Darren as well, and further discuss some of these issues.
That's us.
I just want to acknowledge what you've shared with us, and I concur that there is absolutely an awareness that there's a changing landscape in terms of the relationship that we have as mana whenua with kāwanatanga, and this establishment of Te Whaiora, which has been signalled, I think is relevant for you to raise today. I'm aware that Lady Tūreiti Moxon, and I think is it Janine Kuku or Janice Kuku, have both filed with the tribunal, and I think it would be helpful for us at our level, at our local level, across Aotearoa, to be familiar with what those two wahine are advocating. I see that it has been redirected by the judge to be addressed, but it certainly raises a question regarding the information that they have generated in terms of the disadvantages that our people reflect from a health perspective. So I think it's appropriate that you've raised that this morning, and I hope that will lead to further conversations across our district about what does that mean for us as the three iwi. Te tiriti o Waitangi, I think it's quite clear already that the mobilisation of our people who have a view about the threat and the potential to undo all of the positives that have been achieved to this point appears to be a new reality for us. And I don't see this term being a silent term for our people. And I think we'll find that our children's generation are going to be particularly active. Our mokopuna are going to be active in that space. We're seeing evidence of that already. The review of Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti is a healthy perspective to have. There was a fairly comprehensive review that was led by your iwi, our iwi, to consider what was working and what wasn't. The new structure that has been implemented is a reflection of the council acknowledging the need for change. And that also means we need to be able to accommodate those of our own people that wish to engage through this process. Several times you refer to your hapu, ko wairātai. I think it would be helpful to know which hapu you're referring to, whanaunga. Because I'm not aware who you're referring to. It's not been named.
Probably any day of the week, depending on where you're standing, you'll refer to which part of the hapu you want to put forward. So, tūranga waiwai over at the motu, probably I would say Ngāti Te Maunu ki Kapiti in this particular instance, because I'm fighting for the whenua that's on Motu Ngārara at Waiorua and our marae on the beach here. So we go down to McLean Park and we have our kōrero circle. This is our marae on the beach here, is where we meet. And so that's our tūranga waiwai. And in that sense, I'm a Ngāti Mutunga as well, and a lot of these different hapu. But in particular, I'm struggling to get a voice about our issues. We weren't consulted over the gateway. We've had inappropriate developments happening. We've had council overlays over the land without consultation. And I'm a trustee for the land. I'm a spokesperson for Takutai Moana. But there's no place to have a voice. So probably Ngāti Te Maunu ki Kapiti would be it. My great Nan Utota developed the mana whenua there because to stop the government taking the island, she exchanged or gave up lands here to take the ahika and maintain it since beginning of the 1900s. And we've been doing that ever since. So we need to have a voice about that at times.
Ka pai. And so that triggers a need to go and have a kōrero with Ngāti Toa Rangatira. That's what I would be signalling as the senior hapu of Ngāti Toa. I would appreciate that's noted by you, Huriwai. And now that I know exactly who you're referring to, then I think that's a conversation that should understandably include and involve those who are affiliated to that particular hapu. Requesting information in minutes.
Just correcting you a little bit, no need to, whakiiti, but Motu Ngārara is not really in the scope of what Ngāti Toa's been talking about. In fact, Te Atiawa has had their claim in much longer. So between the two iwi, we're one of those families or hapu that brings the two together. So yeah, there's probably a conversation to be had in several places.
Mm.
Some of it relates to just the whānau and the hapu, not necessarily a higher up issue that requires the collective thinking amongst the different hapu.
Mm.
That's how we work.
Proper consultation and engagement, and I'll take that upon myself to ensure that we notify our hapu accordingly. Requesting information minutes as noted. We can talk to our Democratic Services people about the generation of those minutes so that you can receive copies of them. The Paraparaumu Māori Committee, I respectfully acknowledge the Mayor giving an indication to you that she has gone back and found that correspondence, Chris, and that should then lead to a follow-up kōrero with you. And the last point, again, just refers to the action you referred to, hapu voices. There are a number of significant hapu voices of Ngāti Te Maunu that I think we should be notifying about the need to have comprehensive conversation about those matters that you've raised today. And I'm happy to pursue that.
Kia ora, mihi atu ki a koe e te tuakana.
Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, Daryl. Good to put a face to the name. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe hariata. Whakatata mai.
Tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora. No konei o Te Atiawa ki whakarongotai ahau me Ngāti Toa, Ngāti Raukawa. My specialty is art making, and I have been doing it for like 4 decades. Because my art isn't commercial, it's rather very, very different. So I don't make $80,000 or $100,000 a year, but that's my choice that I don't. So the point is, I would like to thank Martin and the Mayor for assisting me to include my artwork in Mahara Gallery. I would never have my work viewed if it wasn't for those two, and I would like to thank you for that. And if it's possible for me to, through the channels, be included on any art, heritage, cultural, anything to do with our whakapapa, which is what my work is all about. And I am on the Paraparaumu Māori Council, so through Martin I'm able to keep in touch with what's happening here. So that's all I'm really good about is, I think, is art. And I'm not a person who sits around the table and I'm quite nervous at the moment. And thank you for letting me talk, because I just came to support my whanaunga here, and you've allowed me to express my gratitude for having my art in Toi Mahara. The land was our Wiparata, our karo was a piece of land, and I'm very thankful. Thank you for listening. Kia ora.
Is there a response or any comments that the meeting would like to provide?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Hariata, thank you for coming in. Thank you for your kind words. I think what Hariata, I guess Chris to a point, has highlighted is there are some pathways that need to be developed with regards to, especially in the art space, with regards to how mana whenua, from a wider context, are appreciated and celebrated on the Kapiti coast. Interestingly enough, Chris made mention that he did a presentation last week. It was actually to the Paraparaumu Community Board, where it sort of triggered a little bit of a conversation around the art that's going into McLean Park and how it came from a person outside of our district, when really we should be supporting local. So I know it was quite very hard for you to come up here and kōrero with us, Hariata, just now. So I really do appreciate that, and you do highlight an issue that we do have on the Kapiti coast. But I am hoping through the input that you made with regards to the recent Library and Heritage consultation process, that will be looked at and will hopefully be addressed in an open and transparent way. And I'll be certainly keeping an eye on that, as I'm sure Councillor Wilson and Councillor Coe, I think in the art spaces as well, will also be keeping an eye on as well. But thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just about being informed, and me being the oldest in our in Te Atiawa as a visual artist, not a rāranga. I mean, I do rāranga and I do sculpt and I do carve, but my specialty is visual history. So I think, yeah, just to be informed so that I can advocate for all our younger artists here, instead of others that are out of here who may be Te Atiawa, but they were never brought up here. And that's what I would like to advocate for, not me. Unless it's $150,000, I might. I just might. But anyway, thank you again. Kumatu?
Thank you so much for coming in. I was just at Mahara on the weekend, actually, at a floor talk, and your work is in the heritage space, is that right?
Upstairs, yeah.
Absolutely outstanding. And I don't know if you know, but the taonga that she's wearing is also there, and it's just so incredibly moving. So
Well, it's
I'm
it's
so glad we were able to
whakapapa.
get it in
It's
there.
whakapapa, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
incredible.
me tāpiri waipunaho as hene nui te pō, because I think all Māori women have that in them, along with all our other goddesses. It's inside us, you know, and we just have to tap into it when it happens, if we're lucky to. Because colonisation has basically taken away a lot of our spiritual soul. So yeah, well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you for that.
absolutely an integral and perfect part of that collection. It's on until April. I encourage everybody who hasn't seen it to pop in and have a look. So really glad to be able to help with that. So thank you so
Appreciate
much.
that. Appreciate you all. Thank you. Kumatu?
Tēnā koe, Hariata. I think just respectfully, what your presence here today is a reminder of say this respectfully to you, the seniority that you have across our three iwi in those areas where you have your expertise. So it's just important, I guess, for us to just ensure that there are open lines of communication with you as well on matters that involve mahi toi. So I just want to respectfully acknowledge you coming to our hui today in your capacity as a pukenga of those arts. and not to forget that you're there and to ensure that you are included in the aspirations that we have that involve our culture and our art forms being created and displayed and reflected in who we are. So I just want to make a personal acknowledgement of that to you, and thank you for coming this morning.
Kia pai.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to tautoko a kuia nei, anei he marae kura, he whānau tuakana hoki. You know, this is the one forum in council, and I think our chairs, you know, introduced it at times about whakapapa and our senior lions. And here we have a marae kura, and not just a mahitoi, an artist, but there's a kōrero Māori that we can encourage to come through by recognising how our different hapu roll, our lines. You know, if there's a message coming through the tuakana line, especially with matriarchal, a lot of matriarchal power in our iwi hapu, I want to hear it, and I want my council to understand that we want to hear things as well. So mihi atu ki a koutou i te marae kura.
Oh. I've never been so honoured in a group of people. Oh.
Can I just suggest to the meeting, item 4 on the agenda this morning, he tāpiritanga ki te rārangi take. I'd like to ask the meeting if we could please include 2 additional matters or 2 additional items. The first one that I think is important to acknowledge before we progress further is the elevation of Whaia Denise Hapeta to the Purutanga Māori of Te Wānanga o Raukawa. So tēnei taku mihi nunui ki a koe. Ko koe e marae kura o tō iwi. E whakamārama ana mātou tō tairanga ki te rō Purutanga Māori o Te Wānanga o Raukawa. Tēnei taku mihi nunui ki a koe e te whanaunga. As part of the celebrations last weekend, amongst the sadness was the celebration of the graduation of our tauira e Te Wānanga o Raukawa. And Denise, alongside Piripi Walker, were inducted into Te Purutanga Māori. Te Purutanga Māori, I guess, I would express it this way, are those who are the knowledge holders and the keepers of the expertise of our knowledge, our mātauranga. They are principal advisors in terms of the many programs that Te Wānanga runs, from certificate through to masters and PhDs. And so it's an honour to have Denise's wisdom and knowledge being attached to those people who pursue their own personal journeys and pathways in education through Te Wānanga o Raukawa. So I just want to record that acknowledgement. It's a reflection of many years of her dedicated commitment and sacrifice to her people, the sacrifice of her whānau and her hapu. So just want to commend her on attaining that position. And so secondly, I'm going to ask if we could just have a very brief update from Chris regarding the Budge House. I think it's kind of important to conclude the year knowing where that's sitting. I'm aware of conversations that are continuing with Greater Wellington. I'm also aware of the desire for Ngāti Haumia to have a kōrero with Watiawa ki Whakarongotai. I just want to ask that we note that and ask your permission if we could attach those items to item 4 on the agenda. I'm also advised that there are a number of our mana whenua representatives today that have other commitments, and so please direct me if I'm dragging the chain, whānau. We want to be out of here by around 12 p.m.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair. I don't know that the first item needed to be added to the agenda, but tēnā koe. Tēnā tātou. There is one, I think, that really needs to be added to the agenda, and that's the 30-year celebration of Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti and our MOU. I think that's something that seems to have been on our agenda at times, but in recent times, like months, I guess it's dropped off. But that is coming up in February 2024, which would give us one more meeting of Te Whakaminenga to consider and think about what that's going to look like and what form that's going to take, what that review might look like, Andre. And I'd imagine there would need to be another meeting at some point in time to be able to do that. But that's pretty significant in the current political climate we're in. I think it's a significant document. I think it's one that the council needs to have input into as partners. All iwi partners along with the council should think about that in terms of the future of our kaunihere, right? Pretty important. Tēnā koe.
Thank you, Denise. And noted, again, there's the expression of wisdom that we have sitting beside us. So I'm also mindful that today's meeting has provided an insight to what our maramataka might look like next year. And so it might well be that I'm asking members to consider how we might want to look at constructing our dates and times for meetings as we traverse into 2024. And we have a very short window between now and the 6th of February, which is, I think, the first significant date for 2024. And I'd like to just pick up some conversation around that when we get to 9.2 on the agenda today. With that, can I ask Chris, would you please just provide us with a very brief update on where things are at for our Ngāti Haumia whānau?
Kia ora. The latest update we have is that Carl from Ngāti Haumia has met with Ngāti Toa. There's been good agreement on the way forward in terms of support for the honorary kaitiaki role. Ngāti Toa has been in discussion with Greater Wellington Regional Council. I spoke to Greater Wellington Regional Council this week, and they've advised that they are, they've sought additional legal advice around next steps in terms of whether the honorary kaitiaki role sits within Greater Wellington Regional Council and reports in that way, or whether the role would be better placed reporting in through Ngāti Toa. Just to share, some of Greater Wellington Regional Council's considerations include their obligations under the Health and Safety Work Act around being a PCBU if that role reports into them. They've also advised that they have not taken a decision to their council yet, and so have not confirmed the way forward to date. I was advised that a formal update should be coming out from Greater Wellington this side of Christmas. And we are engaged with Carl and also connecting with Ngāti Toa to ensure that the loop has been closed around the current position for Greater Wellington region.
Tēnā koe, Chris. In your absence, Huriwai, asked if we could just get a very brief update on the matters concerning the Budge House. And I've just noted that there has been some fairly productive consultation regarding the honorary kaitiaki role that's proposed. Where that's placed is yet to be determined. There's been ongoing negotiations and consultation between Ngāti Toa and Greater Wellington. Legal advice being sought. There are considerations in terms of the health considerations and in terms of the overall consultative process. And there was an expectation that we would have a formal update from Greater Wellington before the year's out. I'd like to think that this meeting would not insist but encourage an update to be provided to us. Perhaps by 11:59 on the 31st of December would be helpful. I'm also interested to know whether there has been satisfactory dialogue with Ngāti Haumia, and I want to signal that because there has been a request to come and have a kōrero with Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai, and I have taken the liberty of reaching out to one of the committee. And probably finally, just to acknowledge that Carl has been very, very unwell. So I think it's important to realise that although he's been the champion of this take, there is a need to just acknowledge that support around him from those whānau that clearly identify as Ngāti Haumia. That would be my summary of where things are at, and I would like to encourage us from this table to seek Greater Wellington Council's response to us having something from them in writing before the year's out. If that's by consensus the general view of this hui, I'm happy for you to convey that to them on our behalf, Chris. Any other questions or comments on this take? Kapai. Thank you, Chris. Item 5 on our agenda. The unconfirmed minutes of our meeting held on 31 Whiringa Nuku. Could I just perhaps ask respectfully to our Democratic Services staff that do an excellent job to record our kōrero, can we just delete S off the end of any kupu Māori, please? It's just something that jumps out at me. And if we're going to macronise, can we macronise the whole document? I see Kapiti is expressed with the macron and it's expressed without. So again, respectfully, can we just find consistency in how we express our kupu? I'd like to ask that that there's an opportunity when our first draft of our Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti minutes are completed, that there's an opportunity to review before we publish for our meetings. That's just a direct request from Andre as the chair. I feel like I should be demonstrating a little bit more, not control, but desire to help support the production of our minutes. And I'm happy to take advice from the meeting if you feel that's not appropriate, but I think it would be helpful if I was able to engage with our staff as we're drafting the minutes in case there are things that we're recording that could be recorded in a far more appropriate manner. I'm not suggesting at all that anything in here isn't appropriate. And I also think that the minutes as presented for today's meeting are a very good narrative. And I'd like to think that we could construct the minutes in a manner that is perhaps a little bit less comprehensive, if I can use that word kindly. And I'm saying that because I'm just aware of the current climate and the landscape that is developing right now. And it's more of a protective request, us feeling somewhat vulnerable in the situation we're finding ourselves in with our kāwanatanga partners. And so these are obviously open for public consumption. And I'd like to think that our minutes are going to reflect exactly what they need to reflect, particularly from a cultural perspective. And I'm just sharing with you very honestly, we're aware that there are those in our community that will see the current climate that is developing and evolving to be somewhat critical of all things that we're attached to. And that sounds very negative, but that's our new reality. So I'm happy for there to be further discussion about that at this week. Are there any matters arising from those minutes? Would someone like to move that we adopt those minutes as recorded, Huri Wai? Seconder? Kim? All those in favour say aye. Contrary, carried. Kōrero mai, if you have a desire to provide any comment or response to what I've just said, I'm more than comfortable for us to talk further about what Andre was referring to, if that's not clear.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to voice support for your comments that we're coming into challenging times potentially. I don't want to speak for the Mayor or other councillors, but I think it would be a fair comment to say that we will be standing by your side, by the side of our iwi partners as we move forward through what will be challenging waters, I dare say. Hopefully not, but we will see. As reflected with regards to what occurred in the recent process around Māori wards, coming into the selection, I think there's a lot of rhetoric that influenced views by people. I'm hopeful that we don't take backward steps as a country, but to be brutally honest, I'm not holding my breath. But we will see how we go, and I think as long as we stand united with regards to the kaupapa that we try to achieve by being in a good, constructive and healthy partnership, that we'll get on the other side of this, and it will just continue on. As you know, it's been a long time before, it'll be a long time ahead, and that sort of scenario. So hopefully this is not too much of a blip in that scenario, but just wanted to voice that from my perspective, and I'm sure from my colleagues as well.
Yeah, I just want to talk all those comments. Every one of our councillors is committed to this partnership and to a positive relationship and a powerful relationship. So I think we're in a stronger position as we can be in what are really challenging times. So we've got a huge opportunity to move forward with the review of our partnership and the work that we're doing in that space, and to really just push back and do more, you know. So yeah, thank you for your words, Martin. Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, really what Andre is reflecting on is the protection of our whakapapa. Regardless of whether we are mana whenua or tangata whenua, it's actually about protecting that. And I'm very mindful that we are very respectful of the partnership that we have developed within our district, and extremely proud of the current structure, and looking forward to us reviewing this 30-year relationship. It is at the central government level where it's absolutely the unknown. So whilst we need to promote the healthy partnership that we're promoting here, and it is a model, it is an example, and I'm sure those of my whanaunga that are here are very much aware how this looks compared to other rohe across the motu. So it is something we absolutely should feel proud of, because it is a good model, it is a good example, but there are going to be massive challenges that we're facing as your mana whenua partners that are going to be impacted upon because of central government. And so it is important at a local level that we protect what we have created, that we are prepared to be brave and to be innovative, which I keep saying is part of our DNA, as we move forward and as we develop the future pathways for the people of this district together. So just respectful of what we have achieved in the lifetime of this district council, of this local authority with our 3 iwi, but conceivably there are going to be some new challenges in front of us. And I don't see that allowing us to deviate from what we think is important and is reflective of Te Tiriti o Waitangi that we are parties to. So thank you for the responses. There are no reports that have been brought to our attention for today, item 6. Item 7, iwi updates. Are there any additional iwi updates that we should note and record today, please?
Oh, kia ora tātou. Tēnā koe, Andre. Merry Christmas is anyway. Look, I can't think. Well, there's been a lot happening, I guess, in the iwi form, certainly for Ngā Hapu, and certainly for our other big entities in Otaki. But I guess, no, the current, not to draw too long on the, I don't like the current political climate dominating our thinking time and our productive time of looking at ways to do better things together. Yeah, and rather than dwell on those that might interrupt that, as to how we stand stronger together so that we can continue to do the good things we do together for the good of our people. And I think that's probably the important thing, and probably the only thing for us is just to say that we're, other than tangihana that have completely occupied our minds over the last 2 weeks, it's been an unusual occasion for us to the point we even had to defer our Waitangi claims hearings till 2024. So they've been deferred out to March next year, March, April. May will be the last one, 2024. So it's certainly 5 months longer than our people had considered. So a lot more work to be done there. But to say that I've been absent for part of the year, a large part of the year, mainly because I've left the girls do the work here, because we have an important role to be doing with GWRC, and I think those are some of the things we're just talking about here today, Andre, in terms of where central government, regional government, and then local government, and those things that just make their way through, through the ebbing tide, as I call it, that continues to come in waves at times. But would ask that we certainly give some important consideration to how we are going to, one, celebrate Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti and this memorandum of understanding we have as partners, and then where, if any, we think there might be some variations or some additions or some changes to the current MOU as it sits, as we think about what it needs to be for our new generation going forward. Tēnā koe, tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe, Denise. I think I'm right in saying that the remaining agenda is going to capture a number of things that are definitely the priorities for us as we conclude this year and moving into 2024. I just want to record the acknowledgement for all those that were able to celebrate their tertiary achievements last weekend at Te Wānanga Raukawa. I wasn't able to attend, I was at a tangihanga, but by all accounts it was extremely well attended. It was very successful, very exciting, and a happy time in the middle of a very sad period. So thank you, Denise. Item 9 point, council updates. Am I jumping all over the place? Sorry, item 8, treaty settlements. I think, just to note, we can perhaps provide you with the dates of the deferred hearing week 15 to our staff. The hearing week 15 will now be scheduled in March, and what was scheduled for March next year has been pushed out, and it is an online only hearing, and there's the potential for some additional hearings that may include technical evidence. So perhaps we can generate those dates for our staff to include in these minutes. Item 9, e kōrero hau mo te Kaunihera Council updates. Are there any updates that we need to note or record from today's hui? Those that are listed as 9.1 onwards. Draft calendar of meetings 2024, that's been circulated. I have Steffi and Hada's absence, perhaps Deanna are going to step us through that. Yep. Or are we just going to receive it? I'm happy to take direction from the hui.
Just one little addition is the addition of the what commemoration, but happy to take the rest of it as read.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's not actually a question about the meetings. I'll be there whenever they're put in place. That's absolutely fine. It was more around a follow-up from Mr. Webber, who was in here before, around the minutes and perhaps getting copies and stuff. I just wanted to check with the office. Do we have a process for that? If people want to register for certain meetings, minutes, or agendas to be sent to them as such?
Yes, they can contact the Democracy Services team. They are available online once they're published. So if they wanted specific meeting minutes, they would just have to contact us. We don't really have a process for always sending it to them though, because they are not members. But they can just individually ask us for them, and we can release them. Absolutely.
So if members of the community, say, are wanting to be informed that perhaps a meeting is upcoming or the agenda is sent through, we don't have an automatic process where they can just register for that as such. Okay, something else I'll follow up offline. Cool. Thank you.
Tēnā rā tātou through you, Mr. Chair. With regards to item 9.2, update on the long-term plan, in Hada's absence, I'm going to hand over to Darren to provide an update.
Are there any comments or any questions regarding the development of our maramataka? I'm just pleased that we've got a draft and we receive it today. I assume that it's a live document. I'm very keen to go and look at those dates that we're talking about to see what energy is being driven. Today is a very low energy day or phase that we're in. So I just appreciate the staff's efforts to follow our request to look at how we might approach things in this space. And so, yeah, I'm very excited for us to pursue this further and use this as a way of informing our process towards coming together, discussing matters, consulting on matters, and reaching decisions. And doing that in a time and a space that is going to be far more productive for us. Yeah. So thank you to staff and everyone that's contributed to this.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair. So as an update with regards to the request, we are looking to engage Pukenga, who have been involved with the development of the schedule for celebrating Matariki, so to engage them in conversation with regards to steering the future agenda of our hui, mindful that there is probably a greater context within which this might sit, moving us all forward. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora. Kia ora tātou. Through the chair, if I might offer an observation, and this is something that I read recently through the media wires. Far North District Council, and actually Moko Mea Te Pānea, has introduced a new system in relation to council meetings, which is based on maramataka, which after discussions that you'd alluded to earlier, I found really interesting. We have 6 weekly cycles, 4 weekly cycles, and that is the process that we work to. So to see that implemented in one of our councils around the country is really quite insightful from I think my perspective, and I'm encouraged by the fact that we are starting to discuss that here, and I'm sure it might be something that the Mayor and I will explore further, because you're right, you do get a sense of how you are feeling on the day. So I'm really pleased to support and look at how we develop that.
Is there a need to move and second the receipt of the draft Maramataka 9.1? The recommendation is sitting there, that we note the content and the update. So thank you, Kim. Seconder, Huri Wai, tēnā koe. All in favour say aye. Carry. Waitangi Day commemorations. Kei a koe te wā tēnā. In the absence of hara.
Tēnā rā tātou. So just confirming that the agreement has been for the Waitangi Day commemorations to be celebrated on the Saturday preceding Waitangi Day, so on the 3rd of February, Saturday the 3rd of February at Whakarongo Tai Marae in Waikanai. Our team is working alongside the Marae trustees to arrange, confirm the program, notwithstanding also that we are going to have some discussions given the current political landscape and the potential for those celebrations to be impacted on. We're going to have to be very considerate and mindful of having appropriate arrangements in place to ensure that those celebrations are not disrupted in any way. So we'll be steering a conversation to that end with the trustees, and also being mindful that it's important that our 3 iwi are supporting that event together, and with Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti and Council supporting and te tautoko te kaupapara. Tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe, tēnā. Any comments, any advice, any responses?
Tēnā koe, Andre. Tēnā koe, Diana. I know that it's response, and it's probably like I said earlier, the idea is that we don't spend all of our productive time talking about activity that can potentially be a negative impact on those productive things we're doing. But I think for the safety of the people and our people at Chatiawa, Andre, I think we spoke about it earlier, which we had a quick chat, and I think, looking at the appropriate things to the and Hana obviously considered those, what they might be, what additional things we might need to put in place that we may not normally have thought of, considering past years, recent years. Yeah. And I think, to continue to let it be a celebration, in a mana enhancing way, for both treaty partners, I think is really important. It was signed in good faith. We're here today to celebrate and maintain that consistent good faith. And I think if we can do that and present that model of behaviour to our people in our community, then we should continue to do that. Jordan.
Just a quick question in terms of what support do we give the marae to run these events? Is it just resources in terms of capacity, or is there funding available for them, and is it enough?
Tēnā koe, through you, Mr. Chair. So we provide both in-kind support and we provide some resourcing as well, other resourcing. We have also supported the marae to be the successful recipients of a Marae Heritage Grant as well. So that's external funding that has been provided, and we've supported them to obtain that additional funding. So there's both in-kind and financial funding from Te Konihira, and also obviously the voluntary effort on the day from staff who have put their hand up to be involved.
Any other questions or comments? I just want to acknowledge the work that has been undertaken thus far by our staff to liaise with the Marae Reservation Trustees of Whakarongotai. I was happily advised by one of our committee, I think during the course of the weekend, that they had received a notification of having received some funding. So they were very excited about that. Just to recall that we did support an application as to Whakaminenga. But I think it's also just to be mindful that Waitangi Day next year will provide a platform for individuals and groups of people. And it is so important that we protect the significance of Te Tiriti o Waitangi to us as a confederation, as the Art Confederation. And so I'm encouraging us to have further conversations across the Art Confederation about our individual contribution to support the day, and to ensure that our kaumātua and our tamariki are able to attend the day and to enjoy a program that reflects our view about our relationship and partnership with kāwanatanga. But I think it's just important to also note that Waitangi Day in 2024 across our motu may well be impacted upon by a number of people who will use it as a platform and will use it as an opportunity to express their views, given the current political climate that we're now attached to. Very much aware that there's a big push for people to go to Waitangi, and so that might, in some respects, negate those that would want to come and use Kapiti as an example, to demonstrate, to be proactive about those things that they want to share with the community at large. Just looking forward to us really zeroing in on what's important about the day for us and what can we do to continue to support our Marae Reservation trustees. I know that liaison at the moment is with our staff of council, and appreciate your efforts to maintain that important link with them, and just respectfully want to acknowledge my availability if it's needed in any other capacity to help support the planning that needs to happen, because it's not too far away. And before we know it, we'll be putting all those Christmas wrappings in the rubbish and enjoying and recycling and enjoying the new year, and February will be upon us. So just appreciate the work that our staff are doing, and the collective effort that needs to be encouraged to bring about a really important and significant celebration for us all next year.
Could I make a comment? Through you, Mr. Chair. I wonder what we can do to really push out communication that it's about unity and harmony. What we're trying to do with our Waitangi Day commemorations. I'd like to volunteer our Chief Executive to do a video. So I just wondered, just any kind of channels that we can think of to really bring home the message that we're working together, and we want to see that across our wider community as well, and that this day should be a reflection of that, not of any other kind of what. I'm just reflecting on what Denise said before, is how we should be focusing on us moving together positively rather than what's happening outside of our control. Yeah.
Kia ora, Janet, through you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a good idea. I think, the commemoration day for Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti and the MOU is going to follow pretty closely, after the Waitangi Day. So it's a good opportunity to talk about, about that kotahitanga in terms of unity. And then also, to say that, Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti is our own, if you want, the own kawanata that we have, between Kaunihera and Mana Whenua here, and it's been working. And we're going to celebrate 30 years of that. You mentioned earlier that it's a unique thing, and there are various models around the country. I don't think there's many that have been as successful as this one, Andre? I think, and that's from people that I've talked all around the country that work in councils. And it had to me e kōrero whakahihi tēnei. But I think where there's an ongoing willingness through the generations and through the tides of new councillors that come through the tides of new EB people that come through since Uncle Pehi Parata, and the likes of Tuari, Te Rā Momo, is to ensure that they have trust and have belief that this is a good thing to do. And I think we can portray that on the day, Andre. So I think promotions of that, if there's going to be a promotion about that, it might include Te Whakaminenga, to say that, we have our own, and we'll be celebrating this 2 weeks after on another day, So it just says that there's a number of celebrations that we do rather than just single out the Waitangi Day, one on its own. I think that's might be a good way to do it, Darren. Kia ora.
9.2, Marae Grants. Obviously, I've just referenced the good news from Whakarongotai regarding this kaupapa that we're going to be planning towards. Diana, are there any other further updates in terms of Marae Grants we need to note?
So, yeah, through you again, Mr. Chair, tēnā koe. So just to note, with regards to the distribution and the allocation of funds since 2021, we're fortunate to be able to report in time for next year's celebrations that Whakarongotai Marae have completed the restoration and refurbishment of their ablution blocks. So that's wonderful. We will provide a full report. But also just to note that this year's allocation to Raukawa Marae will be the last that have been approved. So we'll have to have a conversations at next year's first hui to determine what the distribution, how we'd like to allocate that fund in the future. So I just want to signal that through you, Mr. Chair, to Te Whakaminenga, tēnā koutou.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, and one was that what are we doing for the next 4 years to come? So obviously we'll have that discussion, and considering the LTPs coming up, do we need to have that discussion before that? And ideally I'd like to see it increase, because 61,000 4 years ago doesn't buy what it buys now, and it won't buy what it buys in another 4 years. And just sorry, I don't know much about the Marae grant, but what's the requirements for the Marae? I'd like to make sure that they're not onerous, when like it's just an allocation of funds. That's all.
Through you again, Mr. Chair, tēnā koe, Kim. So the fund is allocated. So the conversation is around what are the priorities. So it's a conversation where the Marae let us know how they would like to allocate that fund, and we allow them to make that decision and provide us with a report back. So it is not onerous at all. Usually it is for physical works on the marae, and where possible we are looking to support them and look for external funding. However, we do note with regards to the work that is occurring in the emergency management space and marae preparedness space. We're looking at ways in which we can support marae to access the funding streams that have been available, noting that there hasn't been a significant uptake by our marae to apply for that funding that has been available for the last 18 months. Tēnā koe.
And I don't know whether we should have this discussion offline, but just wondering about whether that, because it goes to works, and one of the biggest costs for marae is insurance, whether we can look at what we use that for. That's all.
Just thinking out loud about that response, Kim. It's sort of signalling to me that it might be helpful to just revisit the terms of reference for support that we're wanting to provide to our marae. Certainly, I can acknowledge that the improvements to the ablutions at Whakarongotai are just absolutely first class, just beautiful. It's just wonderful what has happened there, and it's been work in progress for so long. Insurance is a really big cost, right? And if we're talking about the insurance of our marae, it's not just the building, it's the art forms that are in there. And there's been a significant increase for this next period for Whakarongotai marae. And we've consistently met and talked about whether or not the actual cover would allow us to reinstate art forms if they were destroyed or lost. And the best experience of us having to navigate that is rangiatia. And so it's a constant concern for me that if we are required to replace a piece of an art form out of tōtara, the experience we've had is where the insurance loss adjusters will say, well, if we just simply use an exotic tree, you recarve it and you paint it the same colour, you're ending up with exactly what you had in the past. It's not the case. So the increasing cost to insure these sacred places is not going to change, but my real concern is whether or not the actual cover will accommodate the desire to replace those sacred art forms using the traditional materials, or, as we did experience in the past, having to then learn about modern equivalent materials. Where rangiatia, for example, was going to be potentially reconstructed using concrete for Pautoko Manawa, or an exotic tree for the popo, or pegboard and raffia for the tukutuku panel. So it's probably a little bit beyond the scope of what we're talking about here, but when our marae are needing to provide cover for these sacred places of ours across the district, it is an ongoing conversation that I stimulate about whether or not the actual policy provides for modern equivalent material being used, or in the case of having to go through a claim process, the loss adjusters arriving at a point where they'll say, we're only required to replace that using modern equivalent material, which could be substantially less in terms of the value of that claim, that money that's set aside to do that. And so we're immediately at a deficit because we're not being provided with the ability to reinstate our art form using those traditional materials. So it's a little bit off point in terms of this particular item on the agenda, but it does relate to the reality of a marae committee needing to cover the cost for a new window or to replace something or to improve the general condition of and the facilities of that complex.
Can I go slightly off topic with your leave, Mr. Chair, as well?
I think that's the energy we're in.
So I just wanted to talk about, while we're on the subject of marae, the wider subject of marae, the presentation from Remo last week around marae resilience at the Wellington Regional Emergency Management Office, and I just acknowledge that Te Atiawa and Raukawa are both to receive these Atua response containers, and around that recognising how important marae are in resilience, not just for Hapuaniwi but for the whole community, as has been seen particularly in the last year across the Motu. So just wanted to flag that it's coming up, and the work that went in by the marae to qualify for that, having to do emergency response plans and that kind of thing, but really valuable work. So thanks to the time that's gone into that, and really good to know that those facilities are going to be coming into our communities.
Tēnā koe, thank you, Janet. And of course, yeah, you're right. I mean, these are what we rely on as a community across the country. Heretaunga, East Coast is a prime example, where our marae were able to accommodate people, feed them, provide safety for them. So yeah, those sites are not just solely used for the purpose of our people. They are available to our community at large when there are emergencies, when there's a need to actually accommodate people, when there's a need to feed people. They are an important element to the infrastructure of our district. Yeah. Very good. Item 9.2, Māori Economic Development Grants 2023-24. Kei a koe te wā anō tēnā.
So just signalling to Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti that shortly we'll be planning to commence the opening of our annual funding round, noting that we're currently looking to refresh or renew our economic development strategy, and to ensure that there's a direction, I suppose, in terms of where we're going to move with regards to the Māori economic development strategy, because that informs this grant, and it's a strategy on its own. We are aware that conversations have occurred with regards to supporting startup and emerging Māori businesses. So we're looking, with support from Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti and our members on the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board, for confirmation that that will be the priority. So we will bring a paper to Te Whakaminenga early next year, but we just want to signal that today. Thank you.
Yeah, so the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board has got a focus here, and it's in the actual strategy. And I think there were discussions around the refresh, and we're actively looking to seek some funding and some resources to be able to assist with that, should that not be required. And definitely there's some funding, there's some strategies there which are in the current strategy that I think we put to council, particularly around Māori business. So collaborating over that will be good. And that's with my EDKB hat.
Tēnā koe, Kim. Any other comments or advice on this matter?
Look, through you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm just going to flag that I do have some comments, but I'm not going to bring them up at this forum. If it's going to be a refresh and that sort of stuff, I'll actually bring them up through that process as well.
Ka pai, me haere tātou. 9.2, update on the long-term plan, in the absence of hara. Can I defer to you, Darren?
Thank you. Long-term plan's always one of these discussions that we we think will go relatively smoothly, and then we look at the term that Chris uses quite often. We look under the hood, and we see what's happening in there, and there's never quite enough there, and we always think that we can deliver more. So, but it's a good opportunity for us to look at the 10 years ahead that we review every 3. So we are deep into the pre-consultation phase and working with our elected members. We are hoping to land a draft consultation document this week, which will allow us to be well advanced for when we return in 2024 to start to push out the messaging. I understand Hara is planning to come and speak to you Friday, I think is the indication that she's given me about this. What's been really pleasing is to see Frank attending our briefings from Matiawa. And the regular contact that I have with Frank in our monthly catch-ups allows us to have those conversations. Also with Helmut and Ngāti Toa, and that's a real mechanism for mana whenua to express what their priorities or ambition is for the coming 3 years as we look to develop those plans. And of course, Hara, wearing her other hat, is a strong voice for ngā hapu, and she measures that really well. So there will be some financial challenges, that goes without saying. Our initial indication and what the rate increase for Kapiti is sitting around that 12% mark. There's further work to do in that space. We might be looking at a range somewhere between 17 to 12 that will form up part of the consultation document. And like you, in the discussion that we've just had in relation to those ongoing expenses, it's the expenses that we don't have a lot of discretion over: insurance, depreciation, which is about how we fund renewing our assets, which have a long life expectancy, inflation, which and demand through lack of supply in that supply chain. So those are the really, really big things for us. And we are heavily dependent upon rates for revenue here in Kapiti. So something else that we will want to look at is how do we generate other forms of revenue or income that makes us less reliant upon rates. So those are the burning issues for us at the minute. Happy to take questions.
Tēnā koe, Darren. He pātai. One of the, I guess, ongoing discussions at GWRC is about, building regulations, designs, etc. Designs that are friendly to our whenua. And I guess, since we've had the incredible privilege to be part of a Living Building Challenge at Te Wānanga and what that's rendered to our people. But the savings Te Wānanga is making right now is immense. So I think it'd be really helpful to have, I think, some of your planning people come and talk to Rawiri and just go through, what we didn't anticipate. Okay, is the rewards that we're gaining, and we're not even 12 months down the track from opening those buildings. And we're about to go into planned stage 2, the next block. So it's for us in Ōtaki, it's really important that people wanting to come and build there, come and building with a responsibility to the whenua that they leave. They do no damage, to our whenua, to our waterways. Ōtaki of all areas is one of the smaller ones, I guess, in terms of available land mass. And wherever the land is, there's water tributaries that run below the ground, and they run close to the surface. Seawater comes close to the surface in Ōtaki. So it's really important, that council, GWRC, KCDC really take that on board and start to do some really forward thinking about what good building should be looking like. The Crown should be looking at it. We know it's expensive initially, but the long-term plan, the long-term benefits far outweigh. If we think of what we're saving in costs, emissions, our contributions to stay off the grid as a huge institution, we don't contribute to local infrastructure in terms of wastewater, stormwater or sewage at the moment. Okay, it's all refiltered and it's retained on site. All rainwater is reused. Everything we use on our grounds and everywhere else in our grey water is all recycled water. It's all recycled water. When you put in a development of 200 homes, we've just signed off on 200 subdivisions for 200 homes on two different sites in Otaki. We're not a big town, and that's only probably a third of what's coming, of what's already on the books, from my understanding and my knowledge. So that's another 400 homes, you know, and something like 800 homes going into Otaki in the next 5 to 10 years, and none of them are contributing to those living building challenges. Yeah, that's a concern, and I think that has to be in somebody's long-term plan.
I'll let Darren comment, but look, if I could just flag, I'd be very interested in being involved in those conversations, just with the housing and the waste minimalisation hats on. And Denise, if I could flag, there was a gentleman that was looking after the recycling processes on site at the Waitangi. If I can get his details off you, I'm wanting to link him up with our waste minimalisation team, who are quite keen to have some conversations with him about the pathways that he's found already with regards to the recycling processes. Be much appreciated.
I haven't had anyone send me a Christmas card, item 10. I also haven't seen you one. So I don't have any correspondence recorded for today's week. And I can see all those embarrassing looking faces looking back at me. Item 11, future agenda requests. I think we've probably captured a number of take that we want to have further engagement around moving into the new year. So are there any other future agenda requests that we should note at today's meeting, please?
Not noting, and it already might be in the pipeworks, but just an update on the elderly housing. It's probably already coming, I think.
Kim, do you want to expand on that a little bit further, please?
Just in the recent briefing that we had on the elderly housing, looking at the options of what might happen with that portfolio. And I just noted that I was the only one that was able to attend. So to bring it to this forum would be quite good. I think it was already in the discussions, but just noting it here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just a very brief discussion this morning. Just looking at the dynamic, for example, again in Otaki is just one example. There are a number of our community, which I think is probably representative of the district, where a big proportion of our community are actually senior people. And the reality for many of them is that there's a proportion of them, probably also predominantly Māori, that don't own their own homes, that have relied on renting for their subsistence. And when they become heavily dependent as they enter into their latter years, there's a huge strain on family because whānau actually want to look after them. To some extent, that's been an experience I've had personally. But how are we going to construct a plan to ensure that those elderly kaumātua are not having to migrate out of their communities for that 24/7 care that they now need, that they now require? Because that is a reality for some of our people. And in Otaki we have Ocean View, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, you're reliant on your whānau. And there are examples where even respite is obtained by transferring mum and dad or mum or dad out of town so family can simply recover from the fatigue. So at a number of levels, I think it's kind of important to stimulate further conversation, which is emanating from what you're sharing this morning, Kim, about the strategic approach that we might want to look at and develop for the senior population of the district. And no apology for wanting to zero in on those that are Māori in particular, where there is a natural instinct that we need to take care of our koro and our kui. But it can be extremely difficult. It can be extremely stressful for those whānau who have that innate sense of responsibility, having to actually manage that practically. And so as we're talking about further growth and development across the district in terms of the absolute need for housing, are we going to include a component to that will look at how we can take care of our kaumātua who are faced with the reality of needing care, and that perhaps not needing to be accessed outside of our townships or outside of our district, because that is a reality for a number of our whānau. So just want to add that to the general conversation that I think we should be having, whether it's through our relationship with our local authority, whether it's through our partnership with our treaty partners, with our Crown agencies, whether it's through the strategic direction that Ngāti Raukawa and Titiawa ki Whakarongotai need to take as part of their settlement process. I think it's just healthy to stimulate further debate and discussion about how we continue to look at managing that, typically in an innovative and creative manner. So, koina taku whakaaro e putatu kia koutou.
I had one idea as you were going through that. The older person's housing is one element of our older person's work too. And I was just wondering if it might be good to start the year with a little bit of an overview, Chris, of the strategic work we've got going on and where we're at with each of those things, so that we can line up some, commitment to working together on some of those things, because we've got the direction of travel of a couple of items that came to the Strategy and Operations Committee last week, and we've got ones that have yet to kick off, the health strategy, the social needs assessment that iwi input will be absolutely integral to getting that right, the implementation of the older person strategy, the restart of the youth action plan, just off the top of my head, a few of them. So there's quite a lot going on, and it would just be good to have some kind of basic roadmap, I think, to come to this committee, just so there's a general overview of what's going on in that strategy space.
Chris, you write a reply?
Thank you. In short, yes, absolutely. And I did just want to add that we are planning to come to this committee and talk about the affordable housing entity and older persons housing this week. The question on the table is about going out to consultation. So it's a topic, it's not the decision on older persons housing, which will come next year. So we'll be able to do a more comprehensive overview and piece as the Mayor has suggested next year, but also to note that we will also be making updates through the Kapiti place-based steering group that you as our iwi partners attend as well, so you will have a chance to have input. So we haven't gone past the last time you have heard from us.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments or responses on this take? Well, I think we've got to the very bottom of the page, and I want to just personally acknowledge everybody for their efforts in support of Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti this year, and our involvement in partnership and a number of exciting achievements and engagements together across the year. I feel comfortable where we are at the moment, but mindful that we're probably never satisfied, which is a good characteristic to have. There's always room for improvement. There's always a need for reflection. And there's always time that needs to be put aside to ensure that we are attending to the matters that we are committing ourselves to as the rangatira of this council and as rangatira of our iwi. So I want to thank you for your time, your patience, your perseverance, your sacrifices to provide the input that you have made this year. I want to acknowledge those that are not with us today, who have also contributed to this year's work. And I extend my greetings to you all as no doubt you prepare to perhaps spend time to reflect and to restore the energy for the busy year in front of us. Acknowledge you all in your own capacities for the work that you do for our community of the district, and for doing that in such a respectful manner and upholding the partnership that we are maintaining on the shoulders of those of our tupuna that had this vision, had this foresight, and provided us with the recipe that we are maintaining together. So have a safe summer. Enjoy your time that you deserve with your family, with your whānau, with your tamariki, with your mokopuna. And I look forward to us coming back to the table in the new year. So, tēnei taku mihi whakamutuna mutunga ki a koutou. Marama na ahau tō koutou nei mahi rangatira mō te rōpū Whakaminenga o Kapiti. Nā reira, tēnā rā koutou katoa. Happy to just ask if there are any closing comments or greetings or expressions that you would like to share before I close our hui.
Me rā, mihi I taina ki rongi. Ia tātou o te rātou tātou nei kaunihira, tātou e noho nei hei kai hāpā I tēnei o ngā kaupapa te Whakaminenga o Kapiti. Tēnā koe. Hoiono. I keep telling my family, that Christmas isn't coming to our house. I'll just share something. Yesterday I happened to have the opportunity to be up at Manurewa Marae, which is a huge community entity, and what they've been doing up there since the arrival of COVID in the area in Auckland. And they literally turned their marae, entire marae complex into a receiving and dispatch process. And yesterday we were up there with them on behalf of Te Wānanga Raukwa, having some discussions with them. And it just, brought to me, and I came home and I had a couple of phone calls from family, and I says, no Christmas this year, no presents. We're going to support our nephew with his shoebox Christmas kaupapa. And what we really should be doing is opening our marae and cooking people Christmas dinner for the people in our community, because I think, so many of our children, certainly my own mokopuna, don't see the different lifestyles and the different poverty that people they may be sitting together within a classroom or somewhere and don't know. But I think it's really important our children learn, just the concept of giving and not always putting their hand out to take. But Christmas is about giving. So koina tōku whakaaro ki a tātou. I'm not a big eater, so it doesn't worry me that we don't have a feast. We have a feast every other day in Māori, don't believe me. We're going to have one Friday, we'll have one Tuesday, and another one on Saturday and Sunday. But just want to say that because I think it's really important. If I think about our younger days, that's exactly what we did. It was everyone went somewhere like they do now, but Christmas isn't such the great thing that it used to be, because some children like mine, Christmas comes every month when Nana arrives in Rotorua or somewhere like that. So, but yeah, I think about the people who don't have, the people who are living in their cars, who don't have places to go. And I think I need to do something for someone else for a change. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora. In a similar fashion, seeing as we're all handing out presents, verbal and otherwise, I do note there is no card here for myself. But, that's fine. I'll move on. I have spent the last half of a week trying to stick up a Christmas tree because, I'm just full of the Christmas spirit. But I sort of just wanted to give my personal thanks, not only to members of this committee, but also to the staff as well, just for welcoming myself in as the new person in relation to how council works. Growing up, I was aware of what council is and what it does, but not actually having, using that reference actually from Chris around looking under the hood to actually see what goes on. It's a whole nother beast entirely, and I can do nothing but sort of commend the staff and actually everyone here for doing what they do, like every day, especially where you're at the coalface of engagement with people who are often frustrated or angry or upset at things that sometimes are within council control but often are not. So every time there's a request or matter that comes through for council, I'm always sort of wondering, what is the health and safety to the staff, and how do they actually how can we as mana whenua actually help and support and make the staff feel safe to do what they do every day. And I think for myself, just on a more personal note, I am moving roles within working for the central government. So I'm now going on my third tour back over to the Beehive to be one of the private secretaries for social housing. So I will be very diligent in watching anything that comes to Minister Portaka relating to social housing. It'll be an immediate no. But yes, no. So sometimes next year I will probably be more often than not coming in via Zoom for a lot of the meetings. But that's just because I'll be over in Beehive for most of the next 2 to 3 years. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I don't mean to interrupt someone else. Can you encourage Mr. Portaka to remember his days at Te Aute College, and who gave him the scholarship to go there, or take you and put it to a trust board? I did remind him when he decided he was going to stand.
Not on the minutes.
And thank goodness he wasn't in our house either.
Summary of the minutes, please.
From me, just a thanks to all the staff and the councillors who have been supportive throughout the year. You do an awesome job, and making us figure out where we're going and what we're doing. So, thank you for that.
Sorry.
Yeah, look, since everyone else is saying something sort of inappropriate for me not to say something, but I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank all the committee members and all the council officers. It's been very interesting from my perspective, immersing myself more in this space over the last 12 months and in the previous 24 months in the last triennium as well. I guess the only comment I've got is that I'm really looking forward to next year with regards to where we're going as a council, where this committee can potentially go, where our relationships can go as well. I know that there's some issue with regards to some of the central government direction, but that's up here. We can let that go along. There's no reason why we can't be getting along and getting on with the mahi with regards to where we want to see our community go. So I'm actually full of optimism, I guess, and we've done a lot of vision work this year. Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Darren. And I'm looking forward to starting to move into the delivery stage and the outcome stage of what we're doing. And I'm really excited about that, to be honest. And so I'm looking forward to next year and ongoing years, building the relationships, getting to know you all better, and getting to know what the situations are around in our community in this space. Obviously, there's lots of other spaces we deal with, but particularly this space as well. Thank you, everyone, and have a great Christmas, and we'll look forward to getting back into it next year.
Yeah, just a huge mihi and thanks to our iwi representatives, and it's our mana whenua representatives, and it's great because we've got probably our 4 hardest working ones here today. Hurawai, you've been here or on Zoom for most of our meetings. Been incredible to have your input, and Kim, you're just always here. It's fantastic to have you around the table with your input on behalf of mana whenua, but also just your general wisdom and diligence around the work at council. And Denise, fantastic to have your input as well. And also at regional level, those meetings in town, I think, which we don't get to see around here, the work that Denise does. And Andre, thank you for bringing Te Atiawa back to the table and taking on the role as chair. Just a huge step that happened this year in rebuilding and rekindling the work that this committee does. So thank you so much for what you bring, your mana, your wisdom, and your energy that you bring into this space. So yeah, just a huge thanks to everybody and everybody who works behind the scenes, behind everybody who sits at this table. There are so many people doing so much work out there in the community. So thank you so much, and have a great Christmas. Huge year ahead. Have some rest.
Kia ora, I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. And where I'm sitting, it's just forget about what central government's doing and just get on and do what we want to do. And just really looking forward to the next All Tiki Maori racing meeting. That's all.
I'll just total all the thanks that have already been, I feel like, well covered by fellow elected members, and just how awesome it's been having mana whenua input and that true partnership reflected through not only our kind of formal meetings, but also more opportunities to workshop and collaborate kind of in those sort of behind closed doors spaces where we can just nut things out, where we can learn from each other, where we can have open and honest kōrero and kind of co-design. And I think, as Kathy said, when the kind of nationwide situation feels pretty disparaging and it's easy to feel kind of hopeless and like we're taking steps backwards, I really feel like we're well placed to keep tracking on with the work that we're doing and continuing to set that example. And I think that only is more of an impetus, or creates more of an impetus for us to do so. And just really enjoying the Tino Rangatiratanga flag also behind you, Matua Andre. And I think also the fact that our Māori ward decision, albeit now potentially somewhat up in the air, and also the decision to have that permanent representation of the Tino Rangatiratanga flag in our council chambers signifies the direction in which we want this partnership to go, and that we're committed to resourcing. And I'm looking forward to the review that we can undertake together, and the continued strengthening and improvement of the partnership that will come from that. So I think we're in an exciting period, and I'm just looking forward to the continued relationship building, learning, and continuing to get to know one another and building that relationship. And Merry Christmas. I hope you all have a safe and happy season ahead.
E tuku ngā whakamoemiti, ngā karakia whakakapi mo tēnei tō tata nei huhuinga. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tata wariki o ihu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, amine, e tu.